All these weekly messages, I give a lot of advice, but it's all based on you and how you're led of the Lord. There's nothing by compulsion or commandment. I'm a student of human behavior. I enjoy watching how people do things, and I tend to add the way that they respond to circumstances in life in a filing cabinet in my head, and I start to build cases for what I think people are about as a means to kind of try to figure them out. It's probably all wrong, but I do it anyway. And there are generalities that come with certain things. I see certain specific traits that are typically found in genders, male and female. I see certain responses and I file them away. And perhaps it is confirmation bias and I'm only looking for the things that confirm my prejudice. I don't know. But I love watching people and trying to assess what happens and why they do things. And one of the things I've observed in waiting rooms are the way people read magazines. It's really interesting to me. The two major distinctions, if we want to categorize the way people, there's probably three major distinctions of the way people read magazines in a waiting room are, first, there is the front to back reader. They take the magazine, they open the first page, they do their scouring of it or reading of it. They turn and they just work systematically from beginning of the magazine to the end. And that's typical. That's the way the magazine's designed, is to give certain things at certain times in terms of advertising and content, et cetera, et cetera. So the second way, obviously, is back to front. And they pick up the magazine and they take it and they use their thumb to take the back cover off, and then they work backward. And so you got to ask yourself, what kind of magazine reader am I? Do I do a front to back or do I do a back to front when I'm in a place like a waiting room? And then do I change that up when I'm at my house and I have a magazine that I've subscribed to and I'm going to read it? And it's really fascinating to see this as I'm sitting in waiting rooms. Now, whether you're a front to backer or a back to front frunker, each of those ways introduce to us some subcategories of the approach to the content that's there. Some people are front to backers and back to fronters quickly. Do it really quickly, okay? And some people go page by page at a much slower rate, and some people do both of those in chunks. That leads us to the third category, not a front to backer, not a back to fronter, but somebody who opens it in the middle. And then we'll just chunk it out. They'll open it in the middle. They'll head one direction, they'll head another, or they'll turn a number of pages as they scour the magazine that is sitting there in front of them. And so you can almost see front to backers savoring every word and being able to have access to content they've longed for. It's like a girl who loves Cosmo magazine. She gets it. She can't wait to sit down and have her dinner and just to go through Cosmo front to back. I know Christians hate Cosmo, whatever, but that is just the way, right? And they're savoring the content. They want to glean everything out of their subscription. And it seems like the back to fronters, especially when you're sitting in a waiting room, is to pass time, is to distract your mind from things of having to wait for the doctor or the nurse to call you in. So you're kind of a back to front. You don't really care as much as the content as you do as the experience of just doing it to take your mind off it, right? So back to fronters automatically I see as people who are just not really concerted effort to try to learn much. They're passing time page by page, back to fronters. They're interested in being entertained. Chunk by chunk, page by page. And so taking these generalities for magazine reading, then take it and cross-reference it over to Bible readers. And I've also noticed in my experience with people and their Bibles that there are people who are beginning of chapter to end of chapter readers, beginning of book to end of book readers, beginning of Bible to end of Bible readers. And then there's those who are back to front readers. They skim more and they look around and will just pick it up anywhere that they seem to land. And then there's chunk readers who go from one part of the Bible to another. And then I've also seen a fourth way where there are people who they love to just open the Bible and think that when they put their finger on a verse, that's the verse that's speaking to them. They're kind of magical readers, right? And so I just want you to think, what kind of Bible reader are you? It doesn't matter to me. I don't care, and I won't love you or see you as any different. But there are people who take it and they want to read it systematically. They want to read from the back to the front to the back or back to the front. They want to know what it says. They want the whole thing brought into scope. There are people who look for nice messages from the Psalms that pop out to them, and that's all they look at, or from Proverbs or Jesus' words. I just want you to think about yourself and how you read that book, which is so full of spiritual insight. And what kind of reader are you? And does it affect the way you understand the book that's being considered? That's the message for today, just for you to consider, what kind of Bible reader am I? And I've been every kind, so I know that they are all viable things. At least someone's reading it, is what we say. Love you and have a great week.